The privilege of being blind is that I can't see my students, and therefore I can't judge them for their appearance. I don't know who's heavy or who's thin, who's gorgeous or who's going through the awkward growing phase. I don't know if they're wearing the preppy, expensive clothing or if their stuff is really worn down. I rarely ever ask anyone about what a student looks like, and even in private conversations, because I'd rather not know. I want to know who they are here in their hearts, not who they appear to be physically. And that's a privilege I think I have, because teachers who can see their students, they have to get beyond that visual information. And of course, they can use that visual information in a positive way if they choose, seeing if somebody's shoulders are slumped or if somebody's smiling, whatever. But they also have to fight past making those judgments that I think we all make as human beings when we first see each other. I don't have that fight, so I actually enjoy that very much. Everything was going wrong in my classroom. I was so nervous about being blind in my classroom that I didn't move around because I didn't want to bump into things. So I stayed behind the podium. I was afraid I'd call a student by the wrong name, so I didn't call on them. I just lectured. And I'm a very funny, dramatic, humorous, creative person, but I was afraid to be that way, not being able to see how the kids were taking it. So instead of taking that risk, I stayed very formal and stiff, and my room was chaos. I mean, things were not going well. And it climaxed when, during my second year of teaching, a student threw a book bag right before class started, and his aim must have been about as good as my aim, because it didn't reach the hands of the student who was supposed to catch it. It slammed into my classroom window, and the window shattered. It's not like climbing to the top of Mount Everest. It's climbing out of a valley. And, that particular ascent, whether it is to the top of an extremely high mountain, which I would call the last year or two of my life very much mountaintop moments, being teacher of the year, meeting the president, all of that. But the real overcoming that I look at is climbing out of the deepest part of that valley when I thought I was failing and had no chance of succeeding, and deciding to try, deciding to experiment with new strategies, deciding to relax and become myself in the classroom. It has been quite a range of experiences I have had with administrators, and I will say that one of the great gifts of this last year or two has been that I have gotten to work much more closely with administrators, especially on the district level, my own superintendent and others in the central office, but also I've spoken at principals' conferences and superintendents' conferences. And unfortunately, there's often a very big gap between what teachers know and do and think and what administrators, particularly on the district level, know and do and think. Which means when things go wrong or things feel tense or negative, then it's easy to blame the other side because we don't know. It's like, oh, he made that rule, or he's letting this system continue, or whatever, or she's responsible for that. I have had the privilege of bridging that gap this last year or two, and I've realized that all of those leaders are are as committed to education and doing the right thing for kids as we are in the classroom. And we're all, we all have our hand on a different part of the process, kind of like that old cliche of, a blind man or several blind men touching an elephant. You think that your part is the only piece that there is. And there's a much bigger picture there. So it's been wonderful to know that. It's important for those in leadership positions to acknowledge the existence of that gap and do everything that they can to bridge that gap, to improve communication, to be authentic in visiting buildings and really not just buzzing through, but stopping by and greeting students and staff, to have a presence as a leader that is as tangible and accessible as possible. That's the kind of leadership I have grown to know and appreciate and support, and really, really love that I have the privilege in my district to have that from top to bottom. It's so easy to get caught in the debris of teaching, all the testing, the evaluations, the paperwork, the different trainings, the hoops that we feel we have to jump through in order to keep our jobs. Unfortunately, those hoops, they're a reality. They are there, and we deal with how they are. Whether they change from one year to the next year, they are still going to be there. I think the difficulty comes when we get stuck on all of those hoops and all of that clutter, all of those things that keep our focus away from the students. And then by the time we get to the students, we're frustrated or impatient or grumpy about all of those hoops. It's a challenge to keep things in their proper place, do what we have to do on a building, district, or state level or national. But then remember that the primary focus is the students. It took that dramatically bad beginning to my teaching career to give me the resilience when I reinvented my teaching persona, but also to give me the compassion for other new teachers who are beginning. It does not have to be that way. And with a good mentoring support system, it doesn't have to culminate in a shattered classroom window.